everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I wanted to take you through the process of me making my weekly sandwich loaf for my family. So this is something that, like I said, I do on a weekly basis, sometimes more than once a week. But the process starts with grinding my wheat berries. And I say that I do this every week. I bake the bread every week. The wheat grinding I do as needed. So I choose not to keep my wheat grinder on my countertop for space reasons. And because of that, when I grind, I have some canisters that sit in my pantry that I keep my flour in. So I will grind as much as will fit into my canisters and then store it. And it usually sits in my pantry for a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then I will need to grind again. It kind of depends on how much baking I do. Ideally, you would grind every time you bake, because the fresher the ground berries are, the better the nutrition of the flour. But in my case, I'm still keeping it a whole lot fresher than it would be from the store, so it works for me, and it helps me still be efficient and not lose a bunch of time on having to dig out my wheat grinder every time I need to bake. So this is the flour, and anyway, I really like getting to do this. I have to, where I live, I do not have a real local source of wheat berries, so I have to order them and then go pick them up from the store that orders them. So when I do, I have to order a couple of bags to make it worth my time. But this has been a great switch for us. I cook with just whole wheat flour for pretty much everything, and so I don't really even utilize the white flour, so this works out great. So now I am going to feed my sourdough starter. Again, I am making sourdough bread. Most of the baked goods that I choose to make for our family are sourdough at this point. And I'll go into that in another time, but there's a lot of health benefits to the sourdough versus the just traditional yeast. And so that is why I have switched to the sourdough, on top of the fact that I enjoy playing with it. So I have fed my sourdough, and now this is in the evening, last thing before I go to bed. I am starting my bread recipe. And you will notice that the sourdough jar are 2 different jars. That's because this is real life, and I didn't get to film it all in one day. This was 2 different batches of bread, and that jar gets nasty, and I have to wash it and swap jars every now and then. So that's what you're seeing. That's why it's different. But again, this is my batch that I'm starting. I will start this last thing before I go to bed at night, and then it sits on my countertop through the night, and then the next morning I will continue the baking process. And the footage is a little bit wonky here because I have my son helping me. My kids love to help me in the kitchen, and for now I am choosing to keep them off of YouTube, and so I hope that y'all will kind of bear with me on that. But that's why I'm trying to get it where you can see what I'm doing, but you can't really see who's doing it, because like I say, my son was enjoying getting to help me that night. So, and I will link, before I forget, I will link the recipe that I use for my bread. It is actually from Farmhouse on Boone. It's her sandwich bread recipe that I use. I have fallen in love with this recipe. It works really well for our family. There are a couple of things that I have changed for just to make my bread turn out, because I have discovered with sourdough that sometimes the amount of flour, the amount of water, you have to change based on the humidity around you, based on the flour type that you're using. And so I'm going to say that most bread recipes, not everybody's just going to be able to go by the same one and it be perfect every time. One of the changes that I have made is the recipe itself calls for 8 cups of flour. I have discovered that with my flour, I need to use 7. And once I have 7, it looks like this. And then the longer it mixes, there's some flour down in the bottom of my mixer. And after some time, this is what it looks like. This is what you want. It's cleaning the side of the bowl. The dough is not real sticky at this point. And that's what you're looking for. So then I'm just going to let it sit for the night. So again, I have discovered minimizing dishes. I can take this and put a dinner plate over the top of my mixing bowl, and it works great. And so it sits there until until the next morning. And here we are. So first thing when I get up, you can see what that looked like after it's been sitting all night. It has definitely risen. The sourdough, it's doing its thing, fermenting well. And so I'm going to put it out here. And I use a little bit of flour. Again, that's depending on what flour you're using when you bake. Some people will say you don't need to put flour on the countertop because it should become smooth enough on its own. I like having flour down there. I'm going to go ahead and divide it into my 2 portions for each, because this recipe makes 2 loaves of bread. And so I'm going to go ahead and divide that before I start forming it into the loaves. But as I'm doing this, I wanted to add that the reason I choose to bake with whole wheat flour, like I say, is the nutritional benefit of it. And that is something that is different than a lot of recipes. Most recipes that are out there for breads of any kind call for a mixture of whole wheat and white flour, or maybe they call for all-purpose flour. And so I just kind of have learned that you just kind of have to judge each one, and sometimes you have to make it a couple of times before it looks right. As I am spreading this out, I like to do what they call a stretch and fold a little bit before I form it into the loaves. It just helps create the surface tension that sourdough needs to help it rise in the loaf pan. And then this trick I picked up somewhere, I don't remember, probably from watching somebody else's video, of squishing it out into a rectangular shape that it's a little bit wider than my loaf pan and considerably longer. And then you will see here in a minute when I get my loaf pans out that I roll it up into a big roll and then put that in the loaf pan, and just helps it form into the nice loaf shape. And so that's what's there. So make sure and grease your loaf pans. Bonus points here. So I use palm shortening instead of Crisco. So in this little white container, that's where I keep my palm shortening. I know it's not the absolute best when it comes to oils for us to eat, but it is way better than Crisco or the soybean oil, and so it is what I choose to use for things that I need a shortening for. I try to minimize how much I use it, but sometimes you need shortening and you just need it to be a shortening consistency, and so this is what I use for us. So anyway. Now that I have it in the loaf pans, I am going to go back and score it. And this is again another technique that is used to try to help the sourdough have a place to expand as it does its final rise, and then this just gives it a place for the space to go, so to speak, as the bread comes up. You can do simple designs, you can do ornate designs, depends on how much of an artist you are. I just started trying this particular design a couple of weeks ago because I got bored with the one I was doing. So you just kind of, it makes it a little bit fun, but it does have a practical purpose because it is giving the dough a place to expand. So I will score both of these, and then I will cover it with a towel. So it needs to sit on the countertop for the recipe says 2 to 4 hours. I just kind of find that I just watch it and see when it has risen nicely, and then I will go ahead and bake it from there. But right now I'm getting a flour sack type towel wet with hot water because the warmth is going to help with the fermentation process. Cold slows it down, heat speeds it up, and so this will just help it have a little bit warmer environment. As you can see, it's kind of cold in my house this morning. Fall is definitely upon us, and so the extra warmth helps. And through the couple of hours that I had it rising, I would re-wet that towel to re-warm it. So this is the bread after it's been sitting for, like I say, I think it was about 2 or 3 hours that I let it sit. And so I'm sticking it in my preheated oven at this point, and then we have our final product. Be sure that you let this cool before you slice it and try it. Thank y'all for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you give this recipe a try.